Missed the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, here we go. Let me find where we are. Okay, I'd like to move that we reconvene to a regular workshop. Is there a second?
Second.
Do we need a second? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're reconvened. Linda, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you mind leading the way?
Yes, we have a flag.
Thank you, Scott.
Okay.
Everyone is invited to join us now in saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Linda, the agenda shows 2 communications. Were there any others?
Yes, I don't believe so.
I received, Scott and I, and maybe Monique, we received one from an alumnus of our district.
Oh, I'm not aware of that.
It was earlier today, just an hour ago, or sometime earlier today. Thank you. Okay, student representatives, Andy and Stella. Hello, Stella. Please proceed if you have anything for us today.
Sure. So we have a longer report coming out of the high school and middle school today. So starting at the high school, there will be a virtual Dead Center coffee, or there was a coffee house on May 6th, which is our Model United Nations and Congress conference, May 30th. One act was May 31st at 6 p.m. virtually. Today is the NHS induction at 7 p.m. So that has happened. Senior awards will be tomorrow at 7 p.m. A video will be released for all the seniors to check out. Individual senior school closeout is between the dates of June 10th to the 18th, where seniors will pick up capstone, senior awards, and a special gift from the and a special message from Ms. Puccio in the Battle of the Books. Hello, everyone. Having a virtual Battle of the Books. Mrs. Puccio, the high school librarian, will be hosting the competition via Zoom on June 5th, 2020 at 1:30 p.m. The students will answer questions pertaining to 9 novels that they have read throughout the school year. An invitation will be sent to the staff and students announcing the event. Everyone is invited to attend, and we look forward to giving the students an opportunity to showcase what they have been working on all year. And it should be an exciting time for all. The Zoom information is provided by Ms. Puccio, and she'll send that out. At the middle school, GLOW is continuing to send birthday cards to every single staff member in the district. They have a birthday card template in our schedule, so everyone gets one on the actual day. The Robotics Club made a video for our online workers. That is also linked in our report. Ms. Faringo had students create their own political parties. The classes also just did a PBL for Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. And lastly, in Ms. Botvinnik's classes, students are reading the 2019 Global Read Aloud, The Bridge Home, a story set in India about homeless children who are brave, resourceful, and resilient. Students are doing a beautiful job discussing the text during Zoom sessions.
And at Bartle, to encourage social interaction among the students, Ms. Young will be hosting gameplay on Fridays. 2nd and 3rd grade can participate at 12:30 and 4th and 5th grade at 1:30. And at Irving, this week Irving will be honoring our essential workers in town with a few surprises. Our K and 1 classes will be having cumulative virtual activities as a class. Our 1st graders, Ms. Radke will be doing the Irving song virtually, and Mr. Marco will be offering directed drawings on the dragon and dolphin.
Stella?
Gonzalez continues to.
Oh, 1 second. I'm sorry, we're not hearing you too well. Do you mind starting like the last 2 sentences over again? Maybe if everybody can mute except for Stella, we'll get a clearer audio.
So our K and 1st classes will be having cumulative virtual activities as a class. For our 1st graders, Ms. Radke will be doing the Irving song virtually, and Mr. Marco will be offering directed drawings of the dragon and dolphin of the traditional hats. Ms. Gonzalez continues to offer emotional support and counseling to our students remotely, in addition to our weekly Zoom sessions. That is all.
Thank you so much, Stella. It's possible that was just me having trouble there. All right, Scott,
And
would you like to proceed with?
point of
Oh,
order.
excuse me. Yes, sir.
8, did we miss 8 approval of minutes, or did I miss it?
No, we missed it. We missed it.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Couldn't remember.
I would like to move that we approve the minutes of the virtual, regular, public, and executive session.
Wait, no.
Linda,
No, this is a workshop session. We don't actually vote on it.
you're right. You got me all confused, Mark.
Sorry.
No, I'm easily confused, clearly. So everybody, check out the minutes. We will discuss. Well, we can discuss them. Does anybody have any discussions about any comments about the meeting minutes? No. If anybody notices errors, of course, you can notify Linda directly, and we'll vote on them next time. All right, Scott, I believe it's time for your report.
Yes. So before I share information about graduation, summer programs, and what we foresee might be a fall reopening, I just want to echo the comments I made in my letter to the district community this morning. I'm glad to see, by the way, that other superintendents around the state have also expressed their concerns about what they're seeing. I think it's important for civic leaders of all sorts, in all capacities, to take a stand. Look, I know our school district has been spending time focusing on cultural responsiveness, trying to help people uncover implicit bias. I think it's clear we need to do more to teach explicit anti-hate and anti-bias instruction. And so I'll be working with Michelle as head of curriculum, Monique, of course, is head of equity and excellence, the board president and vice president, to do that. Michelle and Monique have been expressing the need with me over the years to do as much as we can in this effort. I do, before I get to my slideshow, I want to show everyone a new webpage that I created to in part emphasize the importance of what we're having to now do, and also helpfully provide some resources. Our website now includes a link I'm calling a Stand Against Prejudice. If you click it, you'll see we've already shared some resources for parents that I got hold of from the National Association of School Psychologists. I also emailed the curriculum committee, Anna, Mark, a couple of documents that I sent the faculty this evening. We're still on course to spend our summer codifying in our curricula instruction that focuses directly on anti-hate, anti-bias. That means starting at the lower grades, talking to kids about the history of derogatory words, the N-word, the R-word, how anti-Semitism, for instance, has come to be in this country over the years, over the centuries. So I'll talk more about that with the curriculum committee when we come to it. I also need to just affirm that as the chief school administrator in this district, I will not tolerate any kind of inflammatory language coming from anyone, whether it be from inside or from outside. There's no place for that kind of language that in any way only adds fuel to the fire right now. This is a time for healing and a time for taking action. It's not a time for inciting more violence and more displaced anger. So I just need to put that out there on record. If you don't mind, I'd like to switch gears and talk about what we are doing now to plan for graduation. I want to officially roll out what are the final plans until the governor decides a 7th different approach we should be taking. I doubt that'll happen. I think we're settled now. Mr. Lassiter has done a really nice job working with members of his team to carve out a very detailed plan on June 22nd that he developed with input from students. He had a group of about 30 people show up for a fireside chat that he held. A number of class advisors were there. The vast majority felt that it would not be prudent to have a July live graduation that would likely require us to section out at different times or maybe even different days, the ceremonies, just too unwieldy to have everybody out there properly socially spaced, have their loved ones in stands or in seats properly spaced. So there are a lot of complications. In the end, the group that Mr. Lassiter met with felt it was a good idea to move forward with graduation on June 22nd. So Jostens, our yearbook publisher, has come through. They're providing these nifty invites that will be sent out shortly to students. The details. So a few days before graduation, we will have made arrangements by appointment for kids to come get their caps and gowns from the school. So they'll be all prepped and ready to go. We'll begin hanging a banner across Raritan Avenue near 6th Avenue. I spoke to the mayor. We'd ideally like to clip the congratulations seniors banner underneath the current thank you banner for first responders. By the way, the banner we created can be used in the future. It's a general message, so we'll be able to keep it and just make this now a new tradition, a new practice. Come June 22nd at 1 p.m., students in cars will line up. They'll snake through various streets. We'll actually have two streets, Abbott and Lincoln, converging on 5th, so that we don't have a miles-long car line going all the way to, 2nd Avenue from 5th all the way to 2nd. One by one, students will drive their cars to the driveway and pick up a diploma on a table with a sealed envelope. They'll by rolling down their windows. Members of the board, myself, Mr. Lassiter, hopefully parents who are members of the board seeing off their own children will be available to congratulate them in the driveway. We'll have our senior class advisor, Ms. Wider, announcing the names of the kids as they're rolling in. Then they'll continue along to follow a map that we've produced to have them have a wave parade, a drive-by wave parade. So they'll be in their cars. They'll be following a structured route that you can see is fairly simple, unlike what the high school did about a week or two ago, and Irving did back in March, and that snaked through the entire town. This is going to be a more simple route. The local police have already helped us to prepare staff so they can block streets, manage crowds if any congregate. And this will happen as they leave the front driveway. They'll return home, and then at 6 p.m., they will be able to watch a pre-recorded virtual graduation ceremony via Zoom. Thanks to a parent who has access to a technology feature we can add on to Zoom, we will provide all the seniors their own private spaces so they can watch the ceremony with loved ones from wherever. We'll also be taking video footage of the diploma pickup, and our plan is to actually edit some of the video footage and put it to a montage for the 6 p.m. evening ceremony. So that's graduation. Of course, I'll take questions when I'm done if you have any. I want to also point out something special that's in the works. Ashton Burrell, a local activist and high school graduate of Highland Park, also, by the way, the state chair of the Cultural Commission, and I have been working with a gentleman in Atlanta by the name of Keith Strickland. Keith is the founder of an organization I recommend you check out when you get a chance, called makingthetransition.org. Making the Transition is the name of the group. Keith is an ex gang member. He had a hard life growing up. He was imprisoned. He got through it all, and now he's been working closely with the Atlanta governor and the mayor to help change people's lives. So I'm fortunate that Ashton hooked me up with Keith, and the three of us are putting together a senior recognition. Right now it's slated for June 9th, although in light of the current situation, the protests and whatnot, we're thinking about delaying this event by a week, might be the 16th. It's going to be open for seniors in the first half hour, and then we're going to follow by allowing all high school students and our 8th graders to join. We will have a DJ, a comedian, some speakers who will speak about the importance of standing for what you believe and doing it constructively and thoughtfully to make contributions to our community. We're calling it Welcome to the World because we're talking about transitions, particularly for the seniors, into the world now that they're leaving high school. I vetted the comedian, I vetted the DJ, everything is age appropriate, considering that we're going to have students ranging from 8th to 12th grade. Working out the technical details, right now we have set up a Zoom room with the name Welcome to the World. So I'll provide more details as it comes along.
Scott,
the board will see.
Yeah. I believe there are a number of parents that are trying to get onto the meeting. Did they get on? I noticed we have one. Okay, 1, 2.
Yeah, I noticed that Anne admitted them.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I see Rob. I see Jen Voorhees, Rob Scott. Yeah. So that's a special event that's going to occur from 3 to 6, either June 9th or June 16th. The date might change to the 16th, and I'll share more information. The board will see my recommendations to pay stipends for some of the services we're getting for that event. Switch gears and talk a little bit about summer programs. We will be running. Anne, go ahead. I can't hear you, Anne.
I'm hearing from a member of the public that the Zoom link on the board agenda is not working. Yeah, I had a problem with it as well. People are having trouble getting on. I'm not sure that we can do that much about that now.
That's the one I used to get on. I don't understand why it's not working sometimes.
It didn't work for me either. I had to manually retype the URL. There was like an extra space or something in it. Sometimes there's a period that's appended to it. I don't know if it's possible to retype. Wow.
It's the same. Yeah, it's the same link we've been using. I just admitted Matt Hirsch to the meeting, so it appears that people are still coming. And of course, sorry.
Maybe if members of the public are here and they know that other members of the public are having trouble, they could text back and forth and try to help them figure it out. They may have to type the link into their browser if they're having trouble.
We are, of course, recording the meeting, and I'll be publishing it this evening on our main website.
Okay. Just ask members of the public to transmit the information. Thanks, Scott.
Those of you just joining us, I talked about our graduation plans for June 22nd. I'm now talking about summer programs. We are going to run extended school year, a high school enrichment program for incoming seniors who need support as they prepare to qualify for the Department of Education graduation requisites, and then the annual ESL program that we've been conducting. Everything will be done remotely. All the details are now in place. We're posting for positions. And I think by June 8th, that board meeting, you'll see some recommendations for the summer jobs posted on the agenda. I do want to announce something that came out of really the work that our Equity and Excellence Committee has been doing and our Curriculum Committee led by Michelle has been doing. And that is to create a summer program to support our students who we are concerned we have lost or we are losing because of the closing of school, particularly those kids who were have been marginalized traditionally. So I've created a program that I'm calling HP Spirit, Optimism, Affirmation, Repair. I've gotten tremendous and positive feedback from our leadership team. And as of this morning, from our mental health professionals, including all of our school psychologists, our counselors, Tracy Mate and Juliana Luxa. The program, as I envision it, will launch the week of July 6th. It will take place live in small groups of no more than 10, properly socially spacing. We'll probably purchase mats or use something that we can use to mark the spaces. We'll be holding all the meetings outdoors, weather permitting. So I envision we'll have kids meeting on the front lawn of the high school for our high school students, the side area, Bartle, Irving, middle school, so on and so forth. The focus will be to help address the anxiety that I'm sure our kids are going to take into summer, not having the same summer plans that they're accustomed to, transitioning from a period of relative isolation to some opening of our society, and then back to not knowing what the fall and December are going to look like. I'm sure there's a lot of anxiety and trepidation about the future. So these small groups would take place with our counselors, preferably 1 or 2 at a time, which would mean we could only accommodate 8 kids, probably 8 or 9 kids at a time. I can see the groups meeting twice a week, perhaps 3 times a week. We try to fit in different numbers of students so we can accommodate as many who are interested. We would be using our care funding. The care funds were provided by the federal government for purposes like this. In fact, I should add that the care funding would be purposed as well to fund the Welcome to the World program I just talked about. So this is something I'm going to be meeting with the mental health support professionals on Thursday about. I want to get their input about details, and I plan to have to the board more information by Monday night, by next week. And finally, I just need to dabble a little bit in what reopening next year might look like. I cannot share much. I'm not prepared to even throw out the draft that's being developed right now by our leadership team and our district safety committee, but I can assure you we are doing this with a lot of input. I'll be meeting with the district safety committee on Thursday. There are members of the board, including Mark and Ann and Michelle. I think you've been on that committee, who will be joining us. We're going to focus that time strictly on the safety and health measures we need to put in place for the fall. But in the meantime, I can tell you the leadership team is preparing for all kinds of scenarios. The track record of Trenton so far has been such that we don't plan on getting information until like July. I know the governor's talking about details in June, but we don't think we're going to get real directives until July. And they can change. So we're preparing for different scenarios. A complete return, which I doubt will happen, but if it were, we'd be prepared. A partial return, phasing in schools, phasing in grade levels, a modified schedule return, and the likely scenario, I think, personally, which will be a continuation of remote learning for at least a period of a couple of months, which, by the way, I don't foresee looking the same as remote learning has looked the past 4 months. I pointed out that the district safety committee is meeting. I will share with the committee at that time all the work we have done so far to begin purchasing PPE, barriers. We're looking at, and we've already started to purchase a couple of sample items at window barriers similar to those you've been seeing in stores in town like Stop and Shop for our office areas, for our child study team if necessary, mats. We are, by the way, being very cognizant of the needs of our little ones. Megan McNally has been terrific about making sure we're cognizant that our littlest children are going to be scared. We don't want to exacerbate their fright when they come back. At some point next year, having all of their teachers look like they're wearing hazmat suits. Nevertheless, we need to be careful that we're protecting ourselves, our kids, and our faculty. I especially want to be sure, besides our kids, that we're taking care of our faculty. There's been some news that I'm sure you've read about the survey results being conducted around the country showing that educators are very concerned about their safety when they return. I want to be sure that everyone, from students all the way to leadership team, feels safe and like they're in a supportive environment. Just a sample of what the template that we're looking at putting together will look like once we hand it to the Department of Education for fall. I thought I would also share with you some of the resources we're collecting. What you see before you is a wonderful screening tool that Kim Nizelek, one of our school psychologists, is sharing with the leadership team and with her colleagues that we will consider incorporating in our summer program that I talked about, HP SOAR, and also the fall reentry. We're not sure exactly how we would use the instrument, whether we would screen all children, whether we would use it as a response to a concern that a teacher might have. We're talking about having a checklist to give teachers that would give them a very easy to read, use rubric to identify any concerns they think kids are having as soon as they come back to school. They would then likely be referred for a more intensive screening, such as you're seeing here. This tool has been produced by the University of California system. And that's all I have to share right now. My Honeywell tomorrow to personnel, and then to families on Wednesday. We'll go over graduation details like I'm sharing with everyone tonight, and then start to talk a little bit about the fall. That's my report. If you have any questions,
thank you, Scott.
Concerns.
Questions or concerns from board members? All right, thank you, Scott. That was a lot of good information. To follow up on what you said about what's going on nationally, our families and our students just saw a man murdered on video, and I want everyone here to know that the board is thinking of our families that are hurting right now. I think everybody's hurting, but particularly those of our families who are Black. And from the board's perspective, our goal is to support you. We are not particularly interested in engaging in a community discussion of how people should respond, whether violence is appropriate, whether it's not appropriate. And we'd ask people, when engaging in those conversations, to be sensitive to the fact that people in our community are really hurting right now. I don't know if there's anything the school district can do to help, but if anybody is in need of help, they should reach out to Dr. Taylor or to board members. We're here for you to the limited extent that we can be. All right.
And thank you for sharing. For those parents who just joined us, check out our website when you get a chance. We're going to start to flesh out a resource area that speaks to our effort to our commitment to combating hate and prejudice. It's on the main page of the website for the school district.
Okay. I think we're up to negotiations. Mark, did you want to present the resolution to approve the memorandum? Okay.
So first I'd like to ask Linda a question. We did want to actually vote on this evening. This is okay, yes?
Yes.
Even though it's a workshop, great. So the board and the HPEA negotiated up until about the point when the COVID-19 became very difficult, when the number of cases was rising, when many people were getting more and more sick and dying. And we jointly agreed to make this a much simpler one-year contract with all the unknowns about funding from the state, the unknowns about tax collections, the unknowns about numbers of legislation that was going through the Assembly and Senate down in Trenton. We thought it would be wise to do a much simpler one-year contract, and that's exactly what we've done. So I discussed this privately, some of the details privately with the board. The HPEA has approved the memorandum of agreement with the board last week. And once we approve it, then our attorneys can draw up a new contract for 1 year. And then we'll start negotiating again as soon as we get back to school. So I'd like to move that the board approve the memorandum of agreement between the Highland Park Board of Education and the Highland Park Education Association as per attached.
Is there a second? You need to unmute yourselves. Who was the second? Michelle, thank you.
Thanks. My mute wasn't working there. Could we have the roll call, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Cimaresti?
Yes.
Ms. Gowan?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger,
Yes.
Mr. Magaziner, okay. Ms. McFadden Nicola,
Yes.
Mr. Rizlevich,
Yes.
Mr. Woodward.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now we can all go back to muting ourselves if we're not going to be speaking. And I'm going to try to figure out how to unmute myself in an appropriate manner. We're on to our committee reports and items for review. Michelle, did you have a report for us tonight under curriculum? Uh-oh, you're muted. Let me see if I can unmute you.
I did.
Oh, there you are. Yeah, better success than I did.
No, thank you. So yes, I do have a report. It is a short one, but we did meet on May 27th. It was myself, Dr. Taylor, Monique, and Rob Ruslevich. And we had a Zoom meeting at 4 p.m. in the afternoon. We reviewed the agenda items, which aren't many, but they are very quickly just an item about evaluating teachers and the rubrics that we use. We have every year, once a year, we need to approve those rubrics and different evaluation processes. And so we had a discussion about those. And in our discussion, Scott shared with us the committee that reviews those processes and also does the evaluations of the teachers. So as you may or may not know, those evaluations are vital to understanding how our teachers are performing in the classroom, and also they factor in very much in their review, in their professional reviews. So it came to our attention as a committee that there was a lack of representation on that group that he listed. I believe there were 15 people in the group, and 5 of them were building administration, and there was also a mixture of teachers, and there was 1 para. I believe there was also office staff included. But of those 15 or so people, the only person of color was a female of South Asian descent. So I think as a committee, we all, took notice, and we did discuss that that was not really in line with many of our board goals. And so Scott did agree that he would be reorganizing that committee, and he would be making a very specific effort in getting proper representation of African American or Black American staff and faculty to sit on those observational boards and to give advice in whatever capacity they are able on how we evaluate our current staff and what rubrics we use to do so. So that was a really productive conversation that we had, and I'm really glad that we had that. So I'm looking forward to that new list and to see what changes can come from that. I hope they're all very positive. And that should be happening soon. I don't know if we can get an update on that as a board, but that would be great if we could. I think we would all benefit from hearing about how that new committee is comprised. So that's something really hopeful to look forward to.
Sure.
Yeah, and then we did discuss remote learning for the summer programs that Dr. Taylor went into specific during his report. So all of those things on our agenda were covered in Dr. Taylor's superintendent report. The high school enrichment program, the ELL, the ESY, and the proposed grouping of live support for small groups. We also got a quick update on the health curriculum articulation among grades. And during the summer, what will happen is that there will be an identification process of the gaps and the unnecessary redundancies in our health curriculum from kindergarten through 12th grade. And Dr. Taylor shared with us a very clear, comprehensive rubric that he would use in identifying those gaps. So that we have to look forward to as well. The last item on our curriculum meeting agenda was follow-up on homework, but we actually ran out of time. So we are going to kick that off onto our next agenda next time we meet. But those are the things that we covered there. And I think that is actually it, except for we have a resolution, item number 2 on our agenda. And item number 2 is...
Is it 3?
I'm sorry, number 3.
Oh, no, oh, no,
it's pulled up.
I'm sorry, there's 2 resolutions. There's 2, I apologize, 2 and 3.
Okay, sorry. So if anyone has any questions about those, I do my best to answer those, but it's difficult to have so many windows open. I don't know where I'm looking at any given time. I'm sure you get it.
I hear you.
Yeah, it's not paper and it's really odd. So yeah, if anyone has any questions, I'd take a shot at answering those. And if not, that is my report.
Thanks, Michelle. Are there any questions or comments? Michelle and Scott, the infectious disease response plan, that's the 3rd resolution. Any interesting points you want to pull out? I realize it's for this year that passed and it's a statutory thing that we have to do.
Yeah, I mean, well, it is, but it was something that I developed with input from a special committee. Just give me 1 second. I'll pull it up so that those members of the public who are here, I'm not going to show you the details, but just can get a visual. This is something that I had a committee I put together that I'm going to keep together of health professionals. I'm going to pull it up while I'm talking. Helped me develop. It grew over the weeks. You're about to see it. I can see Megan McNally, our Irving principal, is on it, which is a good sign. That means it's actually being used for something of purpose. This is the group to which I refer. I call my subcommittee on infectious diseases. They're an arm of the safety committee. I'll zoom in on those titles. Representatives from each of these sectors were part of this group. The individual who I refer to as the infectious disease physician is a specialist out of the JFK healthcare system. He's based in Edison. We talk in our plan about everything from prevention measures in case, God forbid, we have an issue down the road, another pandemic in our lifetime, how continuity of instruction will take place. Some of this information is generic because we want to be able to apply it in the future if necessary, to a section about how we operate everything like payroll to accounts payable to the buildings functions when we close schools for a long period of time. And it continues. This is where we're going to be including information about reentry after closing. And then it ends with an appendix. It includes contact information of all kinds of resources if necessary. So I'll probably update this again and submit it to the Department of Ed, whether it wants it or not, in about a month after we solidify our reentry plans.
Okay, so people looking at this now shouldn't assume that it necessarily articulates exactly how we're going to re-enter in September, correct?
Correct. The version which I have made public on the COVID-19 information page of on our district website does not include certain information that is still being updated.
Okay, great, thank you. Are there other questions for Michelle or Scott about curriculum and instruction? No. Okay, Mark, are you ready for finance?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Please give us your report.
Yes. So the committee as a whole did not meet, but we've been doing a lot of work on the current financial situation. And there were 3 concerns. The first concern was what would happen to our state aid in these difficult times. with rumors going around of perhaps drastic cuts to our state aid. The second area of concern to us was the payment of taxes or the allocation of our taxes from the borough, which acts as a tax collector, to the school district. And as an example, if a large number of people fell behind and couldn't pay their taxes, what would the school district get of those lessened amounts, and when would we get it? That was a great concern. And then the third point was, how would we pay for the kind of equipment we're going to need to go back to school? That is the PPE, additional equipment if the students are out much longer in the fall, for students who don't have Chromebooks. It would include plastic separators and just any thermometers, face masks, all the equipment we might need. So we've been discussing those three areas. The first area of the state aid was announced late last week. And while our proposed state aid was cut, it's still $30,000 more than last year. They cut $76,000 from what we were supposed to get. But at least if what we've read is correct, we will get $30,000 more than last year, which was a great relief to a lot of people, especially to Linda, I would say. So that's really, really good news. We're going to get it very late. The question is one of getting it from the state, but they do make an allocation for us to borrow, and the state pays the interest until we get it. The second area was actually collecting from the borough, which is a long, complicated story. But to make the long story short, our mayor, the mayor of Edison, and the mayor of Metuchen met with the superintendents of those three school districts and told the superintendents that they would be extending the time which people could pay by up to a month. And would it be okay for the school districts to get the money that were due up to a month late? And after doing everything we needed to, an agreement was made to do that. In the meanwhile, and that's okay, and we have the cash flow so that we can support that, and we've already gotten part of that money, and the rest will be coming in early June, within a few days. But the real question is, what are we going to do going forward? And the state's been working on a plan, and they passed a law, and it was signed by Governor Murphy about 2 weeks ago, which allows, based on state determination, which allows townships and boroughs and cities and so on to collect late and borrow against that, and have the state pay the interest on the money. And that means that, and then it also means that they have to pay the school district according to a formula, but no later than a month after the ordinary payment schedule. So there's going to be a resolution for next week, resolution number 13, which talks about extensions beyond that, and the board's recognizing that the board as a whole has to vote on any delays past what's allowed by the state. And then in the third area, it turns out we were allocated up to $237,000, which we have to put in an application for the CARES money coming out of the federal government, which would pay for all of the equipment and, again, PPE and shields and plastic and everything else we need as we come back to school. So that's where we are in terms of the finances. It is, given the time, mostly very good news. We had anticipated perhaps months late on collections, 20 or 25% budget state aid cuts, as much as $800,000 or $900,000 in state aid cuts. That's not happening. So that's very, very good news, at least for now. So for next week's voting, item number 2 is our general bill lists, the two general bill lists for different date and the cafeteria bill list. Item 3 is our usual contractors for professional services for 2020, 2021. Item 4 and 5 are purchases of LED lights for the schools, rescinding the contract with Regency Lighting in California and buying the equipment from Powers Electric Supply in Maplewood, New Jersey. And that $36,000 is covered by the New Jersey Smart Start program. So we'll only pay $589.12 when that's all done with. Item 6 is a resolution to recognize and support the consortium of Middlesex County school districts in negotiations with transport service contracts. This is because the state passed a resolution that we have to pay the transportation services companies that we deal with in transporting the kids, except we're not transporting the kids, but we have to pay them. But we don't have to pay them everything. We only have to pay them the cost of their employees. And they're negotiating now with the school districts. And we're a very small use of transportation services. We get a lot of our services from the county consortium or the county purchasing the transportation services. So we're endorsing and supporting their role in negotiations with the transport services contracts. Item 7 is authorization for a grant application for the School-Based Youth Services Program for next year for $277,000. Resolutions 8, 9, and 10 are approvals to move amounts of $150,000, $100,000, and $300,000 to our reserves. Our reserves were almost depleted. If anyone was here, probably our last live meeting when we had our auditors come, they were talking about that our reserves were way too low, and we had to move some money into these emergency reserve funds. So we're doing that. Item 11 is an authorization for the business administrator to make interim budget transfers as of June 30th. To cover our bills up to that period. Item 12 is a resolution to authorize the business administrator to pay these obligations and set up accounts payable as of July 1st, and that'll be for next year. Item 13 is our resolution to require board authorization for approval of requests from the borough if they would like to delay property tax payments to the school district beyond any delay allowed by state law, now that we have a state law. It's PL 2020 C34. I know that by memory because I was studying it for 3 months. It's kind of complex, but it allows the borough under state guidelines to delay tax payments. This would require board authorization if the borough needed time beyond the state authorizations, which seems wise to not just have a board member or an administrator say, sure, okay. Rather the board would meet and discuss it and vote on it. Item 14 and 15 are quotes for the gym floor at Bartle. And the cost will be $1,609. I believe Linda said that this was something that we had talked about last year and had to move the money elsewhere, so it's rolled into this year. Item 16 is a replacement for carpeting. 16 and 17 replacement in carpeting in high school room 106. Item 18 and 19 are bleachers in the middle school gym for $9,266. Item 20 and 21 are window balances, 32 window balances at Irving School. Item 22 is the submission for the extraordinary aid, which we do every year and learn in the summer what we're going to get. And we've budgeted money for that with the Department of Education. Item 23 is the resolution to approve the submission for the CARES Emergency Relief Grant, which we do, it's federal money, but we do it through the NJ Department of Education for $237,000. Item 24 is the different grant applications for Title I, Title II, Title III, and Title IV. Without going into details, we do this again every year. Item 25 is the IDEA grant application of approximately $250,000. And then items 26 through 31, I'll bundle together, is the resolution to approve contracts to participate in coordinated transportation with all of these different schools or groups. And the name I was trying to get out before, I believe, was the Educational Services Commission, which is really coordinating the negotiations with the bus companies. And this would be for the 2020-2021 school year. And that's the finance report. It's quite long. Thank you.
Ann, you're muted.
You're on mute.
God, I hate to be such a stereotype about old people using Zoom, but here we are. Here we are. Questions, concerns, comments about finance?
I see Chris has a hand up.
Oh, thank you. Chris, you're very dark over there.
Sorry.
Oh, you have a virtual hand too.
Yeah, I'll try to eventually find the light switch.
It's very far.
So last year there was a, once the crisis hit, we stopped paying some costs for the bus transportation, but others we had to continue to pay.
That was the law. That was the law, Chris. But in fact, we could negotiate with the bus companies. The state, in its wisdom, didn't lay out specifically what percentage. They said you negotiate it with the bus company. And since so much of our busing comes through the third parties, like the Educational Services Commission, that's why we're working with them and doing one negotiation for all the busing for the Educational Services Commission, for Highland Park, for Piscataway, you know, all the other districts that go under their umbrella.
Right. But I guess I'm just wondering, are we going to wait for some clarity to sign the contracts with the bus companies this year? Or are we going to go ahead and sign them and then just get stuck in the same situation?
You mean for next year?
Yeah, for next year.
If I can interject.
Yep.
The approvals tonight are just to participate in contracted transportation. These are not approvals to have any contracts. We have not gone out or even provided the Educational Services Commission any information to go out to bid for routes for next year.
Okay.
We are delaying, every district is delaying because we don't want to get in that same situation. And we are trying to talk about writing into the contracts the possibility of, you know, saying that we won't do that. But again, if the governor comes, you know, makes a law, then anything you have in your contract saying you don't have to do it it goes out the window. So we're taking a delayed response for all transportation.
Thank you, Linda.
Great. Yeah, great question. Others? Yeah, Rob Roslevich.
High school room 106 that's going from carpeting to vinyl tile. I'm just wondering which room that is.
Anybody know? Room 106.
I'm not sure, but
yeah.
Let me look into that. Hang on.
Yeah, that's fine.
I can tell you what room 106 is in a second.
Thank you.
Cool. All right.
I just want to thank Mark there's been so much new stuff being thrown at everyone legislatively about how all of this is going to work. And it's not fun to keep up with it all and worry about it all. And so thank you guys for Linda and Mark and Ann and Scott for doing all that, because it is not fun. And it's been changing, every couple of weeks, it seems, or if not every week, or a couple times a week.
Yeah.
So I know it's very stressful and it's a lot on your plate. So thank you all for keeping up with it and making sure we're in the best position possible.
Thanks, Darcy.
I wasn't at all frustrated.
The Chris has really stepped up too to follow various financial issues, and so that's been wonderful. Thank you, Chris.
So room 106 is Miss Marioni's room at the high school. I'm not sure why. I didn't ask why we're going to replace that carpet. I have to assume it's one of two things. What's that?
Yeah. Some sort of liquid spillage, perhaps.
Or we did have issues with mold last year, and we vowed to replace some carpets that were damaged. So could be that as well. Her classroom is one of the new air-conditioned classrooms. There could be some relationship there.
Are we still moving forward with that plan to kind of?
Oh God, yeah. What's going on with that?
Yeah. That's all I need. I don't need a big detailed explanation.
We're getting there. Linda, you remember the number? We talked about this at budget season time.
Well, I think we were talking about 30, 10 each year, right?
Yeah.
That was my recollection.
Slowly getting there.
Yes. I think we delayed 1 year, the 2019-20 year, we delayed it because we needed to spend that money on a boiler, I think. So.
Yeah, Linda,
but I know that what they have purchased, they've been working on installing them while these schools are closed.
Oh, great.
That's great.
Wonderful.
But you know what? It's a good question. I'd like to know more about myself. I'm going to ask Mike O'Donnell, our facilities director, to get back to me on that. I'll report to the board in old business next week.
Yeah, it'd be good to get a status update on how many are still unair conditioned. Right. Darcy, sorry, excuse me.
No, I was just thinking, it would also be important for the fall, right? Because it's been both at the end of the school year and the beginning of the school year that we have issues with rooms that are too hot and kids can't be in them, and then you've got to move them, and that's going to play into your plans for how to properly socially distance, and it's all kind of tied together.
Certainly, if the governor has different ideas about changing start or end times, I mean, I haven't heard anything about that yet, but there's all kinds of speculation, right?
And it would be interesting to see if you could potentially use that CARES funding for that. Just saying.
Oh.
Ooh, it's funny. Of all the things that's come up in our leadership team meetings about CARES, that has not come up yet.
Especially if we're down to 10 or 20, man, and you just want to.
Well, that, and I'll tell you, we are discussing technology purchases to continue to close the equity gap. Things like purchasing extra hotspots for the students who we have on free access right now. In fact, Dr. Nicosia is working with LightPath. That's the group that's been giving about 20 families so far completely free access to at least give them a discounted rate, if not continue the free rates. We might have to pick up the hotspots.
I have to say, this is one of those things that drives me out of my mind.
Yes.
We've been trying to do this for the better part of a decade, and it takes something like this for companies to stand up and be like, hey, there's a digital divide. And we've been like, oh, really? Tell us more about it.
And come to find out, these folks, these 20 families don't actually need special devices, but they're able to somehow access the Wi-Fi using their own Chromebooks that piggyback
They are for now.
So it's not even as expensive as we had anticipated. Let's hope we can.
No. For those in the audience who are not as tech savvy as some others, it's real simple. You probably know that when your phone is set to just pick up any Wi-Fi point that you can have access to, you pull up all these different unknown points like Optimum and AT&T. Well, LightPath has its own system. However, we may have to purchase hotspots hardware for the families if LightPath decides not to use that network, but provide their internet services the more traditional route.
Why would they go that? I mean, that seems like that's neither here nor there for us, but that seems like a terrible
Yeah, I don't
idea.
know.
They must be saving money not having to provide hotspots, and I mean, God, the logistical nightmare of distributing hotspots to everybody. All right. Are there other finance questions or comments?
I just wanted to quickly ask if Title I funds can be used for that same purpose.
Oh yeah, what's up with that? No.
Right, Linda? For air conditioning units or for technology?
No, for technology, for the technology gap.
Wi-Fi.
I mean, Linda, I'll start and you can finish.
Okay.
I mean, I'll say that Title I funds have to be used to supplant, right? Not supplement, or do I get that backwards?
Supplement, not supplant.
Other way around.
Right, okay.
I don't think that's necessarily an issue. You can only focus Title I funds on students who've been identified. If they're in a middle school, the school is a focused school. So that would be an allowable student to be helped. Otherwise, there would have to be some identified need related to their school performance.
Linda, is the state still using that designation? I thought we were done with focus priority.
Yeah, I'm using the wrong terminology, but it's the middle school, whatever
right?
they call that.
Yeah, right. We've declared the entire middle school a Title I school, so
yes,
that funds
yes,
can be used more broadly than they could if.
Correct.
Right.
And then as far as what the funds can be used for that location. The problem with access is it's an ongoing thing. I don't know that is a use that is permitted.
Yeah.
I don't know all of the regulations.
Yeah, I would doubt it for Title I, but for CARES, they're specifically saying it's for equipment and things like that. So.
CARES is limited funding, obviously.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if it was just to help them with remote learning while we are waiting for schools to reopen, then sure, we could use the CARES funding for that.
I'm just still a little bit disappointed, I guess, in our ability to influence what the city, the borough council and the mayor can do on this issue, because to me it's a gap that doesn't only affect education. It doesn't seem that it makes much sense for us to be on any kind of oppositional stance from the town. I think town should be behind us trying to provide this service. It would be
You're really breaking up, Michelle.
It would be really beneficial to commerce. I'm sorry. I was just saying that it would be beneficial to commerce, being that so much business is being done online as well. So I would think that we would have plenty to, sell the town on helping. But yeah, I'm just perennially disappointed that we can't make this happen as a team with our council.
I think Chris was saying, if I'm not mistaken, that this has come up at Universal Access at those commission meetings. Is that right, Chris?
That's right. Yeah.
So, do they foresee any ability to sort of leverage to sort of help get the town to facilitate this? Do they have any funding for that?
I mean, the commission does have a small amount of funding.
It's tiny, I know, but
yeah, it's a tiny amount. It's something that I don't know what the proposal would be. I mean, now that we found out that the phone companies can provide this service for a very reasonable price, maybe it's time to look at it again.
Agreed. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, Darcy might recall we had a meeting with Susie Welkowitz and the mayor, I believe, about a year and a half, 2 years ago about this issue. We didn't go anywhere, but maybe now's a different time.
Yeah, let's bring it up. Let's bring it up again.
All right, I'll do that.
Okay, thanks. I mean, we're supposed to be having, once we get through sort of our COVID funding disasters, we're supposed to be having regular meetings with her of the nature that you and Darcy had set up. So let's try to get that rolling again to talk about things other than funding and talk about internet access, which obviously involves funding. But okay, personnel. We did meet on May 26th. Let me pull up my agenda. Sorry. Here we go. We met. We talked about some new hires, which are highlighted on the agenda. I don't think I have too much to say that's not already on the agenda. Scott already discussed the new summer program that's happening. We did discuss sort of a persistent issue. We've been trying to diversify our recruitment pool. And so we were talking about ways that we might be able to determine whether we're actually reaching a diverse candidate pool. As far as I know, right now, we don't have a question, I think, on AppleTrack that asks candidates to voluntarily disclose their race, gender, ethnicity. Is that correct, Scott?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So we've talked about that, and perhaps looking at the model that Rutgers uses that Chris shared with us, where applicants can voluntarily disclose whether they're in certain demographic groups. There's always a concern. You don't want to give candidates the impression that you are going to be exclusive in one way or another, or exclusionary. But it would also help us see if our efforts to reach a wider pool are effective. So Scott has very kindly tried to give us as much input as he can, as much information as he can about the candidates that have been applying, but without a specific question, it's difficult. So that's something that we've discussed and that we're continuing to think about. On the personnel agenda, everything is self-explanatory, but we have some exciting news. Let's see. We have a maternity leave of absence. Number three, we're delighted that Brooke Baldazone is going to be our new, if we vote on this, that we're recommending Brooke Baldazone as our supervisor of district initiatives and funded programs. She will be replacing Ms. Krupski, who's going back to the classroom. Scott, did you have anything in particular you wanted to add about Ms. Baldazone?
Well, well, first I wanted to point out that Ms. Krupski is leaving on her own recognition. She truly misses the classroom.
Yes, sorry.
No, not at all. And Brooke was a unanimous decision. She's a leader in waiting, so we're very happy to have her. She'll start in the summer to take up the Title I program and Title III program we're running, and then she'll roll right into fall, helping us prepare professional development for staff whenever that might occur. Very excited to have her, pending board approval.
She seems very internet savvy. She's on Twitter a lot, sharing stuff that's going on in her classroom, and it's wonderful. So many congratulations to Ms. Baldazone, pending our vote, of course. Number 4.
By the way, I should add, sorry, she's the 5th promotion from within in the last 4 years, which I think is a nice thing to send a message to our faculty about.
We have wonderful faculty. That's delightful. Number 4, we have a new school nurse being recommended for Irving, Ms. Caminiti. Number 5, she'll be replacing Cheryl, who's retired. Number 5, a new math teacher at the middle school, Sevda Sadiq. Welcome. Scott, did you want to share information about these candidates, or?
Not yet. I'm likely going to have references for you next week.
Okay. So Scott will tell us more about that. We have a new Spanish teacher being recommended, Naelia Fermin Taveras at the middle school, which is wonderful because it's been so hard to find our foreign language teachers, and we are delighted.
We had a very nice pool, strong pool.
Yeah.
We had a runner-up. We even had a runner-up. Our pick is actually a native speaker, so she'll have a lot of rich background to share with the kids. Really excited about that.
That's wonderful. The other appointments, of course, also exciting, but people that are known to us. Ms. Hayes is lead counselor at the high school. Ms. Maiden is returning as staff and student support teacher at Bartle. We're delighted to have that happen. I'm not going to go through all of these because they're pretty self-explanatory. Stipends for additional duties. Let's see, number 13, personal days. 14, summer hours. These are summer hours that we typically give. These are not new and surprising items here.
Although I do want to add the caveat that I'm recommending a reduction in the number of hours for some people, including counselors, with the understanding that we're not going to need to use them as frequently as we have in the past.
Sure.
Just this summer. Yeah.
Okay. 15, curriculum writing, including honors, English 3 honors discussion. Is that junior English? What? English 3.
Yeah, that's the program that we are. That's the combined program that we're going to continue to update.
Okay, so that's for juniors, right? 3 is
correct. Yes, 3 is juniors.
Okay. Oh, play across disciplines, Ms. Gappa. That's wonderful. Math enrichment. Okay, a number of curriculum revision writers being approved. Number 16, the Title I Rising Seniors Intervention Teachers. And that is, Scott, could you say a few words about that?
Yeah, so the Department of Ed has what it refers to as gateway requirements. Used to be you had to pass the NJSLA a la the old PARC. They did away with that. Now students have to get a certain score on a variety of different standardized assessments out there, the SAT, the PSAT, the AccuPlacer. They suspended that requirement for the class of 2020. There are rumors that they're going to suspend the requirement for the class of 2021. I know, right? I know. If that's the case, we'll shut this program down unless we have students interested in learning more about the AccuPlacer. The AccuPlacer is a standardized assessment produced by the College Board that's used at a lot of college and universities to help place students when they first arrive as freshmen. We might have some kids who want to get a leg up on that assessment if they're college bound, university bound. If that's the case, maybe we'll still run it. But this program is going to be for about 30 incoming seniors who have not currently met that requirement.
Cool, thank you. 17, Title I ELL teachers. That's our Title I ELL teachers. Is that we're not doing the SHIP program, Scott. That's not Title III. What is number 17? Number 17. Sorry.
Forgive me. Let me go to it. No problem.
Just clarification.
Yeah. Oh, wait. We need to put more information out there. I'm sorry. Hang on one second.
Sure, yeah.
Oh, this is the English language learner program I told you we're still going to run. It's one of the three programs that we're running this summer.
But it comes under Title I, not Title III.
I
just got confused.
I have to check on that.
Okay. Whatever.
Linda, go ahead.
Linda.
I did check on that because I know Title III is usually ELL or ESL, and it was confirmed to me that this is an intervention program, and therefore it is a Title I program. It does not fall under Title III. That's used for different purposes.
I'm glad someone understands that. Thank you. That's great. All right, number 18, translating summer enrichment letters. We're delighted to have our translators to make sure that at least most of the people in our community can understand the documents we send out. Let's see, oh, sorry, I missed something. Our child study team meetings, because we do IEPs and 504s over the summer. ESL screening, number 20, number 21. Staff to get ready for new school year registration. 22, staff that are moving to different classrooms, sometimes in different schools. 23, extra paraprofessional duties. I'm going to just go through the rest. 24, 25, 26. Yep, everything is self-explanatory. Are there any questions or comments or concerns? I don't see any electronic or real hands. So policy and regulation. Mark, would you like to start us off? Oh.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand if I was unmuted.
No, I didn't.
All right.
Excellent. So the policy committee met. We discussed several policies. We re-reviewed the policy in number 3A, 24-22, health and physical education, which is the changes for making condoms available. Then we discussed website accessibility, which I'll get to in a moment. And then we reviewed very briefly the school district travel policy, which is mandatory, and I don't believe we had. So that was pretty boilerplate. The website accessibility is the policy that states that our website has to be accessible to disabled people, and that mostly means, overwhelmingly means people who have sight problems. So there's a standard, and there are readers that read websites for people whose sight is either lost or not good. And so what we're asserting there is that we are making our website as much as possible accessible to those people. And we do have people in the district who are looking at this and capable of changing it in addition to the service that provides our website framework and hosts our website. So we're going to move forward with that as a policy, and we're going to move forward with the school district travel, and then the other 5 policies will all be voted on next week, second reading, so that they will be in our policy book.
Great. Any questions for Mark? Darcy.
Yeah, I just had a question about the accessibility issue, because I mean, from what I understand, that can be a really heavy lift if our website is not already accessible. You know, both in terms of going backwards and then the additional time it would take to make updates to the website. So I'm wondering if you guys have looked at like what this is actually going to mean in terms of man hours and who's going to do that and that kind of stuff.
So
Mark, do you mind?
In real life, I'll say something briefly, and then if Scott would like to move on. In real life, that's something I know and knew a lot about, making a web-based product, which had to be accessible. And I completely agree. It's a formidable task.
Yeah.
The good news is that the website provider, both hosting and the website itself, the website framework, they assure that their website that they provide us is accessible. So if we literally just put words into the website, so in place of, you know, any school district, we would put Highland Park School District, the website would be accessible. And I reviewed, you know, I didn't look at hundreds of them, but I saw there were hundreds of websites that use the same, originally called Sharp School, that was the company that provided it, who all say we are accessible because the underlying technology is accessible. Where you may fall down in doing this is the kinds of labels you put onto images or onto videos, and that's what we have to go through. And Scott, I think you've arranged or talking to that website company about reviewing our site to tell us where tell us where we're not compliant. And then we'll simply go through the site and make our videos and our images compliant.
Yeah, so since the policy committee meeting, Mark, I received a quote for this service, debating whether or not it's something we want to invest the money in. It's expensive. John Gartner has agreed to be our accessibility coordinator. So I'll probably pull him in, and Darcy will determine if we want to invest in this monitoring system, and second, if it's something that John has the manpower to do, you know, has the time to do. Because you're right, they told me they located initially something like 300 PDF documents, over 300 PDF documents that they would have to review, pick apart to determine accessibility level. That's a lot to do.
Right.
But we could do a part of, go ahead.
I'm just wondering if this is a new policy that's come up or an old one that we just didn't have, or one that we're out of compliance with, or, I mean, because it's a thing, you know, like, I mean, I have secondhand experience with this because my brother has 2 restaurants that both have websites and were not accessible. And then actually had, you know, there are lawyers that go around and look at websites and look for ones that aren't accessible and then, you know, sue. So he spent a lot of money having to completely revamp both of his restaurants' websites to get them up to compliance. So I know it's huge, you know, I mean, beyond photos and videos, like Scott was saying, it's PDFs, it's all of our board documents, it's blah.
Yeah.
It's not the documents itself, though. It's rather the label you put on the document when you put it in the website. So you put up a PDF, and then you point at the document. At least that's my experience. Scott, is that company the company that provides our website, or is that a third
Yeah,
party?
it's a subsidiary of School Messenger, which is now the name of the company that runs our site.
I see. I see. Well, the thing that strikes me, though, is when I looked at their manuals, they not only say we provide website accessibility, but you need to simply look at this list of files. I don't know.
Well,
Can you give me, I mean, what kind of numbers are we talking about?
How do we look at
in
this?
terms of costs,
Yeah.
oh, thousands, not like 2,000 or 3,000. I can tell you what the quote is right now. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. If I can pull
$2,000 or
it up.
$3,000, is that to fix it, or is that to point us at what's wrong?
No, that's just to monitor.
To monitor continuously, though, right? Not just to do one time.
Correct.
Let's reach out to Monique when she's back. I mean, as a teacher of the blind and visually impaired, she probably has some connections with companies, providers, individuals who did this kind of thing. That is her specialty. So
whether we have the policy or not, we have to do this.
Right.
No, I understand that.
Right,
I'm just wondering if we've looked at how much this is going to cost. And I would think it would also require training for anybody who's making any updates to the website to make sure that moving forward, things are going up in a way that is compliant. So it's both, it's both going backwards and it's moving forwards with forward with training.
Scott, who adds to the website? I mean, it's you. You add content to the website. Are you the only person that adds the content? Like, does it all get filtered through you, or how does that work?
Well, me and John, actually, John is the other administrator on the account. The secretaries have some limited capability, but I'm responsible for the district level site.
Okay, so the training it only gets filtered through just a few people, right? Not everybody willy-nilly adding stuff.
If I wanted assistance from the secretaries when uploading materials to make sure that's accessible, I would train them. You talk with maybe one in each building, probably 6, 7 of us.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right.
And remember that perfect is the enemy of the good.
Right.
And we don't have to be perfect. We have to be good. We have to show an attempt to make the site reasonably accessible, not 100% accessible in every way. And my company passed lots of tests where we were not perfect. Where they found problems, but they said we either can live with the problem or can you fix it over the next year? And that's dealing with government agencies who required ADA compliance. So I think just a good, a fair, well-intentioned, serious start at this would be well worthwhile.
Okay, well, Scott, you'll fill us in on what exactly the quote covers. We'll check in with Monique.
Yep.
Let's get some more information about this.
Perhaps in the fall we could hear from John.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah.
It's not, I mean, we don't have to do this tomorrow. Perhaps in the fall he could give us an update.
Yeah, I foresee it as a good summer project.
Okay, excellent questions. It is now time for Equity and Excellence. Monique was not able to be here today. Did anybody else on the committee want to pipe up? I'm not sure if you guys had a meeting. No, okay.
I mean, we did have a meeting, but I was going to suggest that either we wait until, and we do have a full update, but Scott, one of the things that we talked about has to do with the memo of understanding that the school district has with the local police department. And maybe, I mean, that took up probably close to the first half hour of that meeting. Would you want to update us on that aspect? I don't think we're quite all the way there yet, but we have one concern that we were working through. Maybe you can.
Yeah, I'll expand on that.
Yeah.
We were concerned. Well, let me back up a step and point out to members of the community who are here that every year school districts have to enter into a memorandum of understanding, a 74-page something document with local law enforcement. It's been around for as long as I've been assistant superintendent. And this year, the Equity and Excellence Committee and I decided we should add comments that express concerns we have about some of the invasiveness of the MOA. For instance, there's a piece about having to require local law enforcement to have a live video feed streaming into the police department, usually in the dispatch area of a police department, of the schools. If the schools had that capability. We do have that capability. We upgraded our video system, our camera system last year. We had concerns about, Big Brother watching us 24/7. So we're entering into an agreement that would be signed off on by me, the chief of police, the county prosecutor, that would have the police department only activate the live stream when necessary, when essential. The committee does recognize the importance of allowing law enforcement to have the ability to see a live event if it's happening and it's endangering the safety and the welfare of people in the school. But we just don't feel comfortable having an always-on access, So we're entering into an agreement that would have the police department only activate the stream when there is the phrase we're using, when there is an imminent threat of some kind to the safety and welfare of people in the school. So that's essentially what we're adding to the addendum. There are 5 items included in that, and I don't know if I shared with the board the latest version, but I could very well do that. I'll put it in a board agenda for you, June 8th, if you'd like.
Sounds
the actual
good.
addendum.
Great. Yeah, thank you. That'd be great. We'll have Monique also add to Rob's report when she gets back. Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Scott.
Yep.
All right. Other equity and excellence comments? No? Okay. The Highland Park Board of Education welcomes public participation and has reserved this time for your comments. Board policies 164 and 167 establish and regulate the right of the public to participate in public meetings. Mark Krieger, can I deputize? Well, let's see if there's any public comments. I need to step away for a sec. Is there anyone here in the public who would like to speak? Please raise your virtual hand or unmute yourself. Let's see, do I have to unmute you? Unmute. If you can figure out how to raise your virtual hand, please do so, and I will call on you.
Jen, Rob, if you're interested in speaking, just press the participant button in your Zoom window, and you'll see access to a hand raise button. And if we don't see your hand raise.
All right, seeing no hand raised, and uncertain whether I've forcibly muted anyone.
Sorry, I couldn't find the hand raise.
There you are. Rob Scott, excuse me for a minute. I'm going to step away from the computer on a matter of personal urgency, and I'm going to ask Mark.
Go ahead, Mark. Looks like you're in.
Mark, sorry, I was muted. Do you mind taking over for a second?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Rob, why don't you go ahead?
I'll be right back.
Sure.
My name is Rob Scott. I'm at 25 South 2nd Avenue in Highland Park. I listened to the superintendent's report on the reopening in the fall, and the one thing I didn't hear anything about was any plans for testing, and given that that's what all experts have suggested is really critical for reopening, I look forward to, I guess, at the next board meeting, hearing about what plans are for testing at the school. And that's really all I have to say.
Well, as I pointed out, the District Safety Committee is meeting on Thursday. Dr. Scott, I can't commit to sharing information about testing next Monday night. What I will do, however, is turnkey what we discuss as a safety committee. So I'll be sure to update everybody on our safety and health plans. So that's how it is on my end. Mark, I see Chris has his hand up.
Yes, Chris?
Did you?
Scott, is there any guidance from the state about expenditure for tests by school districts?
Absolutely not. One thing has been, actually, I have to be honest with you, the state hasn't given us any guidance or direction about what to expect we need to do to maintain health and safety when we come back in the fall. So districts are doing it on their own. Our facilities director, as I pointed out earlier, is already purchasing things that we know we need, PPE. We're buying hand sanitizer pumps for classrooms. barriers, maths, and anything else the district safety committee feels is necessary on Thursday. Testing has not come up among the conversations we've had so far, but it might come up Thursday.
There's different kinds of testing. One kind of testing is you put one of those I don't know what they're called, thermometers on every person's head before they enter the building, and if there's a temperature, you get them out of the line and move them to a place where someone can pick them up. That's what they're doing in large measure in China right now. That's what they're doing as they're opening schools in other countries. They're doing it more on the national level. You know, we're here, they're there, but it's certainly not any more than that I've seen. The alternative, which I think Dr. Scott was pointing out, would be when someone comes into the building, perhaps once every week or 2 weeks, to literally have them spit in a cup and do a real virus test. So you really know, except although the virus tests aren't very good still, but you at least have a fair idea of which students or staff have the virus, in addition to doing a thermometer test. I do plan, Scott, to bring that up on Thursday.
Yeah.
I think there are ways to do that, which we could do, or we could partner with, I don't know, we could partner with the organizations that are doing that. And presumably by September, someone will have their act together so that the tests might actually work. So I have friends who've had the disease who tested negative. I've had friends who've tested positive and don't have the disease. I've had friends with, and not in 1 or 2 cases, you know, in numbers. The tests are really pretty terrible right now. So that's not an excuse, but we should look at every avenue. I think this is it's not a bad idea.
Yeah, we'll discuss it at the meeting, right, Scott?
So, Ann, why don't you take over?
Oh, thank you so much.
I had my minute of glory.
Oh, very exciting, I'm sure. I hope Dr. Scott said something appropriately controversial for you to.
No. He mentioned testing at the schools, and which is very reasonable. So anyway, Ann.
Scott, thank you. Yes, Rob Scott, would you like to make any additional comments, or were you finished?
No, he said he was finished, but of course he can.
Okay, Michelle, I saw you raising your hand.
I just wanted to mention that I've been trying to do a lot of reading on antibody tests because I know that that's the logical next step. Although, you know, everything that I'm reading seems to contradict itself. They're not really sure about what the antibodies in your system tell you. And now I just read something yesterday about the fact that they don't believe it's a respiratory illness as previous coronaviruses were. They think it actually uses the respiratory system as a conduit to the vascular system.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so the point is there's still so much that we don't know that it might have something to do with the fact that everyone is so hesitant to put money behind shoddy tests. We don't have much of it. Unfortunately, we are getting budget cuts even still in the middle of a pandemic, unbelievably. So I don't know if that helps, but I don't think any of us are rushing in any one direction. You know what I mean? We're not rushing to open, and we're certainly not rushing to get people into the building before we know it's reasonably safe. So I just wanted to say that there's a whole lot more we don't know, and tests do sound like a good idea, of course, but we need to be prudent, I think.
Agreed. I mean, let's find out what the universe is of. Nice dog, Scott. Not as loud as my dog. Let's find out what the universe of possible tests is, whether there are any partnerships that we can engage in with Rutgers, and go from there. And hopefully we'll have more information to report to the public at our next meeting or our next meeting +1. other public comments, either from Dr. Scott or I see Ms. Voorhees or anybody else who might be lurking about? All right. Looks like no. Any other comments about testing, reopening, other than the obvious, when are we going to reopen and what are we going to be doing? No. Okay. That brings us to the President's report, which will be brief. HIB letters. So we've been reviewing the letters that are sent out to parents whose children are involved in a HIB incident, an alleged HIB incident that is an incident that is alleged to amount to harassment, intimidation, or bullying under the state statute. Some of those letters have not been particularly clear, as those of us who have received one have experienced. So we are engaged in, they've been made much more clear over the past few years, but there's still some tweaking to do. So we have been discussing that, looking at it with lawyers, looking at it as committee members, and we will continue to do that. I believe if we have some reasonable proposed drafts that Scott is gonna, I believe, go over with our attorneys and see if the extent to which they meet legal muster. Because our goal, of course, is not to confuse parents, but to inform them, while also ensuring that we have all the proper legalese that we need to have. The other update was about Math 6+. So as you all know, we had planned to detrack Math 6 next year by offering a Math 6A for all. I actually don't remember what the name of that class was going to be.
Math 6+.
Math 6+, went through a couple of iterations. After a meeting about the issue that Mark and Chris attended, I believe, and of course Scott was there presiding, it was decided that we're not going to move forward with that next year. Did Chris or Mark, did you want to speak in more detail about that? Or shall I summarize what you guys told me? Chris, did you want to talk about it, or Mark? Yeah, go ahead.
Great input at the meeting.
Yeah, Chris, do you
or Scott, do you want to summarize maybe? Yeah.
Yeah, I was disappointed. I've been waiting for several years to make this happen.
Yes.
I was, however, compelled to, because I think the rest of the committee, including Dr. Dan Batty, who's a specialist from Rutgers, who we've been working with, felt was just necessary. That's to wait one more year. Too much concern about how kids have been growing in the last 4 months, and then having the unknown hanging out there next fall. We will continue to provide professional development. We're going to phase in the program, and we'll launch it in 2020, 2021. I'm sorry, 21, 22. That's all there really is to say. Chris?
Yeah, maybe just add that the incorporation of complex instruction is ongoing and will continue. Yeah. And it sounds like the professional development has been successful so far. Anyway, it seemed like there was a lot of enthusiasm.
Darcy?
Just a quick question. I understand we're not going for the whole kit and caboodle at once, but is the departmentalization still planned to be happening?
That's still in effect, and yeah, it's still in effect. Has been successful and will continue.
Awesome. Yeah, because I mean, I think that's a great lead-in, and the more comfortable those teachers are in 5th grade with that departmentalization, that's just going to help once this is ultimately implemented, you know. And I think it helps everybody with the continued buy-in. You know, I think the more solid the foundation is, the more, you know, the more successful it is going to be when it is rolled out. And, you know, I was sorry that I wasn't able to make the meeting, but I'm glad to see that there's, you know, still such like thoughtfulness going into the implementation.
There's a combination of urgency and caution.
Yeah, I mean, the world went upside down. Like if the world didn't go upside down, we would have done it, but the world went upside down. And I can see in
or as the New York Times put it, the world is broken.
Yeah, well, I try to think of it as upside down. It's easier to
right
side up than it is to put it back together. But, you know, it's not totally broken. A lot of things are still in place, but, you know,
and some things shouldn't be put back together. So
I hope we all, you know, move forward with some of the understandings we've gained, like the digital divide we were just talking about. Anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what is the plan for, is is there a plan in place to, I mean, maybe there is no plan yet, to detrack Math 7 so that this cohort will have the opportunity to be in a detrack environment, or go forward with Math 6 for the next cohort, or?
Definitely, it's been discussed, but wanting to do it after we have a full year behind us of 6+.
Right. Oh, of 6,
Absolutely.
I mean of, no, I mean, I'm sorry. So next year, what will this year's fifth graders be doing next year to start?
Grade 6 math.
Will they all be in grade 6? Will there be 6A and 6 as usual? Or?
No, I believe we're going to put them all in one math class and differentiate. However,
great.
It won't be to the extent we were hoping. So there is going to be a level of detracking, but it's just not going to be full on as we want it to be. There'll be cohorts of students who will separate it somewhat by need.
Within the class.
Correct.
I see you, Chris.
In fact, I'm going to pull up the letter that Dr. Nicosia sent, and I can share it with everybody. I see Chris wants to say something as well.
Yeah, I want to just continue with one quick thought, if I might. So we'll make a decision about what to do with this year's fifth graders in 7th grade at the end of this coming year. In other words, what will happen to the Math 6 students from next year?
Correct.
Okay. Chris?
Yeah, I mean,
no.
What happens to this year's cohort after Math 6?
Can I just disagree? I have to disagree.
Oh, okay, go for it.
But my understanding from what Dr. Nicosia said at the meeting was that, maybe when they initially go back, everyone, will be. When people go back to school, it's not going to be like it was in the past. I mean, there has to be a period of recovery, but it was discussed at the meeting that there would be testing and parent opt-in into 6A if parents so want. That was my
but there will be some.
That's not what it says in the letter. You're right.
I understand when the students are scheduled into their classes, there will be some grouping according to what we know are the needs coming in.
Wait, in between classes or within a class, Scott?
Within a class. Between classes, I'm not sure if I understand your question, but in other words, if we know we have a group of students coming up from Miss Fernstadt's class we have grave concerns about, who could use this extra support in grade 6, we might move those students as a group into Math 6 next year.
Will essentially be a Math 6A and a Math 6, if not
without referring to it as Math 6 or Math 6A. That's what we're considering.
Okay, so that cohort will not be going on to a detract Math 7 for all the next year.
Likely not. Likely not.
That's a shame.
So we're another year behind schedule, and I was discouraged, but there
was unanimity in the room.
No, I got it. I just hoping we could get this cohort back caught up in 7th grade or something.
Darcy put it, the world upside down, which is, I guess, the words I've been using about what we've been going through. With this world turned upside down, there was unanimity. The students that were typically behind in the past and needed extra work have fallen further behind.
Right.
I mean, one of the teachers was very passionate and got tremendous agreement that the remote learning, virtual learning, hasn't helped. It's widened the gap, and that to go forward with this would be just not in the interests of the students. And
I certainly agree, but just to clarify, what cohort, is there any way to save the current cohort of 5th graders by perhaps putting them in a Math 7A? I mean, can we get things started again for this cohort, or are we saying this cohort will proceed as usual and then we'll start again with
I could certainly ask
4th graders.
I could certainly ask Dr. Nicosia for her input.
I felt strongly at the meeting that this group is going to go through.
Was that decided? I mean,
I wouldn't say it was so much decided as it was implicit from the teachers in the room and Dr. Nicosia that this is a group of students that, as the teachers said, needed a tremendous amount of help going in to make this 6+ successful.
Yes.
And that the gap has widened sufficiently that the old model is going to be difficult. Because as one teacher put it, 5 of my students or 8 of my students, I don't remember the number, since the distance learning, I can't get them into a single meeting, and their parents don't respond, and they have computers. They're just not here. And how, and they're missing months of work. How are we going to get them into a 6+ program?
Understood. I'm wondering about a 7+ program so that those students could hopefully be caught up during 6th grade, and then those students could be given the benefit.
While I'm doubtful that could happen, that's something that I recall Chris and Mark came up in our conversation. I'd be willing to ask Dr. Nicosia for her input. But
at least leave it open for discussion.
I agree with Anne. If we would be capable of moving kids from a 5th grade classroom and then doing it in 6th grade, why couldn't we work with the 6th graders with that as the goal for 7th grade? It would probably mean some additional resources once those kids get into 7th grade for sure, but you'd basically just be delaying it a year for those kids. But the goal for them for next year would be to, there's going to be cohorts in every grade of kids that need to be caught up.
Right.
Every discipline.
Well, let's not talk about the individual students in that class. I don't want to say, like, at this public meeting as a general rule, this cohort can never be moved. So let's not.
No. It's simply that
I understand that there are other concerns.
That the distance learning has had such a bad effect that catching students up next year will be difficult enough.
Well, let's leave it at least an open question. I don't want to.
I'll follow up with the board next week.
Yeah, okay. I totally hear what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't want to foreclose it. Let's.
Yeah.
I accept that.
Maybe the teachers will say it's impossible, but it wasn't really a subject of discussion. I would like to hear more. I don't want to. I know that's not what's happening here, but I don't want to give up on any of our students. I really don't. Maybe that's not what's happening, but let's.
I'll check in next week.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Sorry to be interrupting and annoying. Try to control myself. Take a drink of water, like I've been told to do when I'm tempted to interrupt. All right, that's it for the president's report. Is there any old business? Is there any new business? It's only 9:19, guys. Let's go. New business. No. Okay, then it is time for public comment. Let me read my statement here. Oh, you know what? I think we're supposed to, no, wait. Here we are. I'm sorry, I got out of order. The Highland Park Board of Education welcomes public participation and has reserved this time for your comments. Board policies 164 and 167 continue to establish and regulate the right of the public to participate in public meetings. Are there any members of the public assembled here today who would like to comment? I'm looking for your electronic hands, or you can just shout out if your electronic hands are not working. I'll have a 30-second pause here to account for those who, like myself, are not adept with the technology. Okay. Oh, there goes my dog. My dog would like to make a comment, but I don't see anybody else. So I would like to move that we adjourn the meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everybody. See you next week.